Email Marketing Bootcamp Day 2. Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about lead magnets and landing pages. My name is Lorraine Ball and I'm going to be your facilitator for this program and for all the programs in the Email Marketing Bootcamp. This is day 2 of a 5-day program. We've already talked about how to grow your email list. And if you missed that recording, just drop me a note and I'll be happy to send you a link to the recording. Today, we're talking about lead magnets and landing pages. So, what's the big deal? Why is everyone so focused on lead magnets and landing pages? Why is there so much emphasis on this? Well, to answer that question, you really have to look at the core description of what these pages are about and why people are using them. Lead magnets and landing pages allow you to exchange information for an email address. In this day and age when everybody is fighting so hard to get into the inbox, offering a lead magnet gives you an opportunity to demonstrate your expertise and begin a deeper relationship with a prospect. It gives you an opportunity to add them to an email program so that you can stay in touch, cultivate that relationship, and hopefully move that prospect closer to a sale. This process is about attracting the right prospects. When you put a particular offer out there, whether it's a case study or a white paper or a worksheet, not everybody is going to want that information, and that's actually really okay. What you're trying to do is attract people who are interested ultimately in doing business with you. And so the resource that you put out there is designed to solve a specific problem. You're offering a specific solution for that problem, and it's designed for a specific segment of your market. When all of those balls align, someone will give you their email address in exchange for your piece of information. So what can you trade? What is it that you have that would be of value to a prospective customer? Well, as an industry professional, you probably have access to industry data, research, things that the average person wouldn't know. You might have survey reports or how-to guides. Maybe this is something that you've created, or maybe it's simply something that you have gained access to that you can now share with your constituency. Case studies, collections of blog posts. I want to talk about this for a moment because it sounds crazy. If somebody can read a blog post on your website, why would they give you an email in exchange for a collection of them? And part of it is because of the convenience, because you make it easy for them to read a series of these articles all at once without having to hunt through hundreds and hundreds of blog posts on your website. We found a tremendous amount of success with our food clients when we take recipes that are scattered all over their website and put them into one easy-to-download collection. Also, resource kits, access to discounts and special offers. You can create a landing page where when people sign up, they have an opportunity to get early invitations to sales and promotions. They get an opportunity to get quarterly savings, preview sales, invitations to special events, scorecards and checklists. People always like to know, how do they match up with other people like them? Podcasts, webinars, videos, slide decks, e-courses, you name it. Be as creative as you possibly can. Think of the things that you have that when you share them with customers, they're like, wow, that was great, thank you. Because if one customer loves it, 100 more prospects might be interested as well. And the cool thing is that these offers, these downloads, these resources don't have to be terribly elaborate. and very time-consuming to create. There are all sorts of tools out there that will help you do it, but quite honestly, a clean layout in Microsoft Word saved as a PDF. This is a pretty simple worksheet and activity log, but it's a great tool. It's got the name of the company, so it's branded. It's got some links down here that actually, when this was saved as a PDF, these links are still active. So if somebody really enjoyed it, found it valuable, shared it with someone else, that new person would be introduced to you as well. I also like that here they have a link to the instructions on how to use this, and it takes you back to their website. You can also do a simple white paper or report, and you can manage it really, again, a little bit of simple branding at the top. This is a 2-column layout. Yes, they've done a little bit more formatting, but really this is still a pretty simple document. Keep it simple. You can totally do very professionally, very attractive layouts. You can hire a professional graphic designer, or you can simply use a Word document that's clean and simple, an attractive cover, and then save it as a PDF. We do this with our recipe collections all the time. The interior is pretty simple because what people are really looking for is the information. We put a great cover, save it as a PDF, and then share the links on social media, in email newsletters. The key to a great lead magnet, first, it's ultra specific. Don't try to create something that everyone will love because you have to make too many compromises. You can create an email workbook, or you can create an email workbook for heating and air conditioning contractors. You won't have as many people in total that'll be interested, but those folks in that specific industry are going to love that piece of content. An effective lead magnet offers one big thing, not a lot of little different things. Again, one thing. If you've got 3 things to offer, create 3 lead magnets. There is immediate gratification. I fill out the form and I get access to the download, or an email pops up immediately in my inbox with whatever it is I'm looking for. Good lead magnets are designed for rapid consumption or use. And by that I mean when I download it, it's something I can use right away. I'm not going to download it now and think, well, maybe in 2 years I'll actually get around to filling out this form and using it. It's got to be something that I can use right away. There needs to be a high perceived value. It doesn't have to be expensive to create or produce, but the information has to have value to your readers. It has to be something that they think they can't get anywhere else. And at the end of the day, a great lead magnet will shift the relationship. Suddenly that stranger who wandered over your website has become a prospect. There's someone who's interested in hearing from you, learning a little bit more about what it is you do. The best lead magnets are short, simple to create and consume, and leave the prospect wanting more. You cannot tell them everything they need to know in a worksheet. But what you can do is give them the basics and encourage them to contact you if they want to learn more. This tool should whet their appetite for what else it is you can offer. All right, so you've got your lead magnet, you've built a case study or a worksheet, and now you need to start thinking about that submission form. What is it that somebody's going to fill out that will give them access to your information? Several things I want you to keep in mind. The first is the less you ask for, the more submissions you will get. So as you're constructing your submission form, you really need to ask yourself, how much information do I really need? Yeah, I'd like their name and their phone and their email. Do I really need all that information? Can I get away with just the email address? Don't treat this like it's the only time you're ever going to interact with them. Assume that this is the first step in a long-term relationship and that you'll have an opportunity later to ask them for more. A good example is the way that we run our Monday morning resources. You can sign up for our Monday morning resource kit with nothing more than an email address. But when it came time to register for this program, I sent out the invitation to lots of people who were already on our mailing list, and I asked that they give me a little bit more. They needed to give me their name and their phone number. Oh, and the zip code. And people were willing to do that because I had earned the right. I had already demonstrated that a lot of the information we provide is good, solid information, so they were willing to take that next step. So only ask for what you need. Here are two different submission forms. The one on the left, name and an email address. The one on the right, name, email, phone, a good time to call, and all sorts of other information. Which one is better? Well, if you really need this information, if this is perhaps a submission form to schedule an appointment, then go for it. But if you don't, if all you need is their email address so you can start the conversation, go with a shorter form. Optimal form length, really interesting. The number of fields, the more fields you have, the less likely people are to convert. An optimized form with only 4 fields is 160% more likely to convert than a form with 11 fields, which is more likely than a form with 15 fields. So the less you ask for, the more people will fill out the form. When it comes to designing your form, and I'm going to show you some samples, and you can see some different examples in a moment, you want to left align all your information fields. You want to make it easy for people to scan down the form very quickly and see what it is you're asking for. Research by companies like FormStack and Unbounce, who are leaders in this industry, both say that a single column form is much more likely to convert people than a double column. Yes, it's a little bit longer, but especially in the age of mobile, everything needs to be single column. As you're creating and styling your form, go for a slightly larger font size in the field and in the field titles. It may look a little shouty, but people are more likely to fill it out. Have clear questions. Don't have anything confusing where people don't really know what it is you're asking for. And this last one, absolutely, absolutely smart error handling. Have you ever filled out a long form and you got all the way to the bottom and you hit submit and it takes you back to the top and it tells you there's a mistake, but it doesn't tell you where? Don't do that. I can't tell you how many times I've simply given up on a form when I can't figure out what it is I've done wrong. Strong calls to action. That button at the bottom, that click here, buy now. You want to have action statements. They need to be 1 to 3 words. Don't go any longer than 3 words. You want to stay with commands. Click, register, go. Things that move people to action. There's also a lot of research that says that the best buttons are going to be ones that tell you what you get when you're done. Get the kit, grab the resource, register now, read this. Tell me what's going to happen after I click that button. The most common and default on a lot of form-making tools is submit. Think about this for a moment. Does anybody really want to submit? Also, as you're styling, you want to keep it, your button text in all caps. So it should be click, not click, and get the kit, not get the kit. Yes, we have been taught that when you're typing in all caps, you're shouting at people, but here's the deal, folks. You're creating this landing page. You're going to go to a lot of effort to drive people to the page. It's okay to yell at them a little bit. When you're thinking about the button style on your form, you want it to be a contrasting color. If your website, and we tend to use orange on a lot of our buttons, don't use that button color all over the page. Reserve it for just the button. Orange is a great color for calls to action, but you can use blues or greens or purples. I'm not a big fan of red unless that's one of your brand colors, because red sends mixed signals. On the one hand, it can tell people, it can get people excited, their heart rate will go up, they'll be interested, but red also says stop, danger, warning. So I tend to prefer orange versus red for buttons. Most of the time, you want to keep your button about 1/3 of the width of the whole form. The exception is if it's a really small form, you can go all the way across. But when it's 1/3 of the width like this, it really kind of pulls the eye down the form and it focuses people like a funnel. If you can, if your software will allow you, a little bit of subtle movement is awesome. Like when you roll over it and it changes color or it moves a little bit. Again, that's just subtle movement, not too flashy, but subtle movement draws the eye and encourages people to click. And don't be afraid to go big. You can have a little button like this one. Here's an example in a contrasting color. You see, here was the orange. There's the blue. It still works. It still pulls because it's contrasted with the gray and the white. But that big button really gets your attention. So you can go small or you can go big. Again, like the all caps, it's a little shouty, but it really grabs your attention. Reviewing some of the things that we talked about and a few other things that I want you to keep in mind. Ask for less information. Ask only for what you absolutely need. Consider adding a privacy policy. Make people more comfortable giving you their email address by telling them how you're going to use it and how you're going to protect it. Make sure that you write a compelling call to action. Pay attention to the color, placement, and size of your buttons because all of those things matter. And use smart CAPTCHA or honestly no CAPTCHA at all. Unless you are absolutely being overwhelmed by junk submissions, avoid those. I'm not a robot. Type a number here. Anytime you make people jump through hoops to fill out your form, you're creating that little bit of friction. And even a little bit of friction is going to turn some people off. Now, if for whatever reason you're being absolutely attacked by spam bots, and for every good submission you're getting 100 bad ones, then yeah, you might want to add a CAPTCHA form. Otherwise, I would say just leave it alone. There are all sorts of tools that you can use to build the submission form. Some of my favorites, FormStack, they're a local Indianapolis company. I've used their tool since they had 3 people in the operation. It's a great, easy-to-use form tool builder. They've got a wonderful blog. They talk and share their experience. Gravity Forms, the difference between FormStack and Gravity Forms, FormStack is a subscription-based product. If you use their form, you're going to pay every single month to use it. Gravity Forms, you can buy a developer license, you can install it in your website, You pay one time and you never pay again. It's a good tool. I think FormStack is easier to use, but I jump back and forth pretty easy. If all you're looking to do is collect simple contact information and you're pushing them to an email tool, Bloom is fabulous. It's really easy to style the buttons. You can create some really attractive submission forms. The problem is that you don't store the submissions in the form tool itself. So when I push somebody from Bloom to Constant Contact, I put them in a separate list so I can always see who they are and where they came from. Wufoo is a lot like FormStack. There's a free version and a paid version. There's a product I stumbled across called Form Tools, which actually looks pretty nice and it's priced about the same as some of these others. And Constant Contact, honestly, if you're just looking to grab somebody's email address, there's a nice little embed form that you can build right in the Constant Contact toolkit and install it on your website, and you don't really need any other tool. All right, so you've got your offer, you've got your form. Where are you going to put it? You need to present your offer, and you need to create a landing page that really sells it, that tells people why they want whatever it is you're offering. Here's some general landing page design tips. First off, simple header. Right at the top of the page, you want a nice, clear, concise headline. Maybe a supporting subheadline that helps sell it as well. You want to limit your navigation. Honestly, a lot of people won't even put their logo at the top of the page. They certainly don't put their full navigation. Why? Because if you've driven somebody to this page, there should be out. And out is filling out this contact form. The page should have a clear and single purpose. So you've got photos, some information, here's the form. Everything else on this page should support and encourage people to fill out this form. Your call to action needs to be above the fold. It should be in the top third of the page, right there. When people come, they shouldn't have to look around, because a lot of people are coming and they are ready to fill out that form. Make it easy for them. It's okay to have supplemental information. I call this the buy, why, buy, because at the bottom, it's good to repeat the call to action and drive them back up to the top of the page. You want to keep a couple of things in mind. The first is white space. And a lot of times when designers say white space, people get confused because they're like, well, this isn't white, this is black. White space is simply open area that doesn't have an image or a graphic. So when you're designing a landing page, don't clutter it up and cram it with lots of information. Give your form some breathing room. You want to use colors, contrasting colors effectively. So for example, here what you see is blues and grays, and the red is presented here at the opening and then here on the button. You want to use your button color very sparingly. It will have more impact if you don't use it all over the form. The other thing that you really want to think about is what's called encapsulation. And what that means is the form should be contained. I should be able to look at the landing page and go, oh, that's all I have to do to get what I want. And if possible, in your design, use directional cues. You want this, follow the arrow and fill this out. I also saw another really creative way to do a directional cue. there was a photograph of a person on this side of the page, and rather than having the person look at the audience, the person was looking at the form. So you looked at the person, their head was turned, and your natural instinct was to slide over and look at the form. Forms should be in the center or the right side of the page. So when I look at it, I see the form and I know what I'm supposed to do. Now, I don't really like the look of either of these forms. I think they're both a little bit busy, but they do work in their respective industries. The thing that is different between the two of them is what's called the payoff. Here, grow enough food to feed a family of 4 in just 4 square feet of space, even if you don't have a yard. Fill out your email and get instant access. So I know if I fill this out, I'm going to get what I want right away. Here, get updates and my 20-week e-course. 20 weeks! Oh my God, who's got that much time to wait for that information? Part of the challenge is this is going to take too long to pay off. I would break this into a series of smaller segments. My 5-week email e-course, if you finish that, here's another 5, another 5, another 5. People will be significantly more likely to do that than to sign up for 20 weeks. When you're designing your landing pages, here are a couple of other, I think, really good examples. This one is nice because there's a pretty picture underneath, a nice headline, and here's the form. It's not really encapsulated, but because it's white on a colored background, it kind of jumps out. I also like this one because I think the headline and the benefit is really solid. I'd like a little bit more encapsulation around the form, but I do love the button because that's the only place on the page that you see that color. I think this left side with all of this information could be a little bit tighter. Maybe some headlines and subheads, maybe a little bit of bold. I think there's maybe a little too much information there. This one is awesome. This is a great landing page. They promise you something, and when you roll over and you want to get help on the landing page, this is what happens. It's the same landing page, but out of nowhere, this conversion form drops down. This is really cool programming, and it's probably a little bit more advanced, but it certainly got my attention. And I was kind of committed because I had clicked to get help with landing page, and then they told me how. What I do like about this is there's your head, your subhead, and these nice big fat boxes that I can fill in my information. And finally, if you build it, will they come? Well, just putting a landing page on your website isn't enough. You've got to promote it. You've got to let people know that the resource is there. You want to drive traffic to your landing page from other pages on your website, from social media, from online ads, and maybe even offline promotions. One of the most clever download campaigns I've ever saw was a heating and air conditioning contractor who actually promoted an energy audit in his radio commercial. And he drove people to his homepage, and when they got there, they filled out the form. And I was amazed at how many conversions he actually got. When I talk about driving traffic from other places on your website, add a footer to your blog post. If you're writing an article about a particular, we do it at the bottom of pages of recipes, and then we have a link that says, if you like this, click here to get a whole collection. If you like our decorating tips, click here for more. These nice, brightly colored little banner ads for your own product or service with a nice little button. Create social shares and graphics that you can put in email newsletters and on Facebook and encourage people to click. Create social shares that fit nicely in Facebook. And here's the thing. In the beginning of this program, I told you that all you needed was Microsoft Word. And now you're looking at these graphics and you're thinking, yeah, that's great, but now I've got to have a professional designer create my buttons. But you really don't. If you can use PowerPoint, if you can insert a picture into PowerPoint and blow it up full size, and then simply type text on top of it, you can create a social share. Because you see, you have the option with PowerPoint to simply do save as JPEG. And it will ask you, should I save the whole presentation or just this one slide? And simply save one slide. And when you do, you'll have this perfectly sized social share. So what's next? Where do you go from here? Well, once you collect someone's email address, you need to be prepared to follow up with them with auto response campaigns, email newsletters, and even go old school, phone calls, face-to-face events. In the next couple of days, we're going to talk about email newsletters and auto response campaigns and how you can up your game to close the loop and move these prospects through your sales cycle. If you've got questions, I'd love to talk to you. Feel free to reach out and join me for tomorrow's boot camp lesson number 3.